Achit-Erdene is the president of Mongolian International Capital Corporation, offering comprehensive inbound and outbound investment, brokerage, and research services. We will focus our discussion on the past, the present, and the future trends of Mongolian investment climate. So, Mr. Achit-Erdene, welcome.
Thank you.
Although mining sector has been the low-hanging fruit or the cash cow for Mongolian economy to leverage since 2000, because of not only its internal politics but also world commodity price fluctuation, we have been forced to start making the country's other economic sectors more attractive. Which other sectors have the biggest potentials of attracting foreign investors to Mongolia based on your observations and predictions?
Yes, the mining has been really the growth engine of Mongolian economy for the last 10 years. If you look at the kind of a historical data on the exports, for example, in 2005, the Mongolian commodity export was only $500 million. Today, it's over $5 billion, more exactly like $5.8 billion. So, and you could really say that Mongolia opened its treasure, chest, because we were exporting only copper 10 years ago. Now we export coal, iron ore, and lots of other minerals. So I think this has been really success story of Mongolia. What I see in the next 10 years is kind of similar, kind of a big growth in the agricultural industry of Mongolia, because like other countries with the big land and fewer people like Canada and Australia and New Zealand, Mongolia has good potential for the agriculture, both growing crops and also exporting meat. Animal husbandry. Of course, many things need to be done, and especially on the government side, that there needs to be right policies, and also the kind of maybe on animal husbandry, more like the
hygiene
more veterinary
standards, right?
But I think there is a huge potential, and I think you already can see that the agricultural industry in the last 2-3 years kind of picked up, and because we are also next to a very big market, China, and that imports the crops and even like hay from America and Canada. So I think there could be just matter of time before Mongolia starts exporting these huge commodities, agricultural commodities volumes to China. So
with regard to mining sector, despite the resource, abundant resource, there has been lots of challenges with regard to infrastructure development, as well as not having the right policies in place as a precedent to investment, etc. Do you think similar kind of challenges can be faced for investors interested in agricultural sector as well?
Yes, like I said, I believe the government policy is quite important. I think so. If you look at New Zealand, we recently did a research on this industry. If you look at New Zealand has a similar number of sheep and cattle, so 33 million. Mongolia has 32 million, and New Zealand exports about $3.8 billion worth of meat all over the world, including and probably mainly to China, whereas Mongolia is exporting only $17 million worth of meat. So if you look at it, I think the main bottleneck is kind of the dangerous contagious diseases like foot and mouth disease and other diseases that are kind of that prevents it, because there is a worldwide ban on importing from these countries where there is FMD outbreak. So Mongolia needs to government, probably it can be done only through the public sector, that we need to introduce good hygiene standard, as well as kind of introduce the big vaccination program all over the country.
Which is already in place though, right?
Right.
It's certain amount, probably not fully implemented, but still on the way.
Yes, so I think this needs to be done systematically like it's done in other countries like Turkey in the last 10 years, and I think it needs to be like countrywide and systematic and over 3 to 4 years. And Mongolian, the meat industry can export after that. So, but it's like in mining, it's more like an infrastructure issue. But there is big demand on the other hand, so it justifies this investment. So.
What else can you say about Mongolian investment environment, especially in terms of legal and maybe even taxation aspects?
Right. Yeah. So Mongolia has one of the lowest corporate income tax rate in the region. It's kind of 10% for if your revenue is like less than $1 million, but 25% after that. And also personal income tax is about 10%. And I think Mongolian company law and investment laws are quite well drafted, and so I believe there is kind of a general kind of a
it's generally welcoming or favorable to the investors. And I think because of this economic downturn we've experienced over the past few years, now the new government or the newly established government is trying harder than ever to make the investment environment or the climate even more favorable. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that. I think in the past that Mongolia introduced some controversial laws, kind of limiting investments in strategic sectors such as mining, but kind of since, like I said, we are like a very vibrant democracy, so we learned from that mistake and kind of changed that investment law again, and now there is no more limitation in strategic sectors except for the foreign government-owned institutions. I think it's kind of similar to when you invest in Australia, you have to get an approval from the investment board. So if you're a state-owned company, there will be similar process, but for other private investors, it's a quite easy process. You don't need a special approval from anyone to make an investment.
It's not only applicable to strategic sectors, but also to the other sectors, isn't it? Could you share some of the projects you're currently working on? Which sectors are they mostly from? Where are they headed to, etc.?
Yeah. So the deals we have done, the transactions we have done, kind of reflective of the Mongolian kind of economy and foreign investment trends, you could say. So we started doing a lot of mining sector deals, and up until 2012 there were a lot of new mines starting, new exploration companies starting and listing in Australia and Hong Kong and Toronto stock exchanges, and these were like really interesting, exciting times. Then you could say that because of maybe commodity downturn and also government policy of that strategic investment law I mentioned, that kind of mining became less attractive for investors. So you kind of see more decreased activity in the mining, but nevertheless, I mean, just in terms of investment, but also then in the last 4 years, you can see a lot of investment in agricultural sector. So we have, for example, we have worked on expansion of the largest chicken farm in Mongolia. So they had about 100,000 chickens, and they expanded to include 300,000 more chickens, so became almost like 500,000 chicken farm.
Right. And that's quite a rapid expansion.
Right, expansion. Yeah. But still they cannot supply, they will supply only 30% of the Mongolia's total consumption. So I think there is a lot of potential in this sector for import substitution, but also for export. So, but also, we work now. We're working with a Kashmir company to expand its production line, but also to attract strategic investor into the sector, so offering equity sales. So also we work, it's our principal investment, but we built a successful farming company in eastern Mongolia. So we see a lot of deals in agriculture sector recently, but also starting this year, late last year, the mining sector is picking up again. So again, we're working with mining entrepreneurs, starting new companies, maybe listing in Toronto. And
besides agriculture and mining sector, which other sectors do you think have the biggest potentials of catching up with these sectors, mining and agriculture, and others that you just mentioned?
Yes, so we have, again, I forgot to mention, we work with a lot of mining service companies because as you know, that Rio Tinto is the largest investor in Mongolia, so they're investing last 4 years about $5 billion and investing $5 billion more in the next 5 years. So there is a lot of opportunity to supply materials, goods and services to this big mine, and it's just one mine. Then there's a lot of other coal mine and small-scale gold mines starting. So we see a trend in the mining service industry that first it was focused mostly in exploration services, like it was geophysics, initial stage, drilling companies, but it's more like now more stable business like catering services and also machinery. And then there are so many things that you can supply to the big mines that can be produced in Mongolia. So more and more entrepreneurs find these opportunities and then come to us to raise money. So that's quite interesting sector.
Yeah, it sounds like we might be able to see similar trend happening in the agriculture sector in the next few years as well. Because you just mentioned that the agriculture sector is trying to catch up with mining sector, but they're still in the initial stage in terms of becoming or meeting international standards, etc. So maybe after several years, they would be also requiring supplementary services like the mining services you just mentioned. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree. I think once you started producing big volumes of agricultural products, there would be necessarily they will require logistic services and marketing and trading, and there will be a lot of other opportunities.
Your company provides multiple services besides the capital financing, corporate financing. Could you share your typical revenue structure so that we can see which kind of services are more popular among the corporations interested in Mongolia and also operating in Mongolia?
Yeah, so we're like a small investment banking firm, so our main businesses are corporate finance advisory, so we advise companies in debt and equity raising. So and also the foreign, like you said, the inbound investment when foreign investors want to come in, they require due diligence services, etc. So these are primarily our, maybe 70-80% of our revenue comes from this. And then we have a small brokerage arm that is mostly like outbound Mongolian people wanting to buy shares outside. And because the Mongolian capital market is still very, very small, but still kind of we're working on that. We're trying to find new companies to list. So over time, I think this brokerage will pick up.
Speaking of the immaturity of Mongolian stock market, in 2011, was it 2011 that when the Mongolian Stock Exchange started working with London Stock Exchange? Yes, 2011, right? How much has this partnership helped in terms of the growth of MSC, you think?
Yeah. So it was both good time and bad timing for that initiative. It was good time that we were able to attract London Stock Exchange, and many other exchanges offered their services to cooperate with Mongolian Stock Exchange. But we chose London Stock Exchange and brought in new IT software system, and I think people officials got training in abroad, and even brokerage our companies and people to train in London. So there was some lot of improvement, but again the commodity market kind of went down again starting in 2012. So a lot of the expected IPOs in the market didn't happen. But again, as I said, we're seeing again renewed activity in the mining sector, commodity prices going up, and a lot of the biggest companies in the future are that will be listed will be state-owned, and also mining companies, we believe so. For example, there is a Achit-Erdene town Tolgoi, we call it ETT. I think if eventually when it lists, it will be like worth several $1 billion, and but I think it's kind of a in the early stage of development, and we'll see listing of these and other companies on the stock exchange in the coming years. So
I see. During one of your interviews back in 2011, you said many Mongolians with significant savings are interested in investing, but feel uneasy because they can't easily find quality information on investment ideas. Has it changed?
So I think still in the Mongolian stock exchange, there are not too many qualified companies for investment, and Mongolian stock exchange market capitalization is still very low, like several $100 million. So people with significant savings want to invest in stock market, but they would invest in abroad. So mostly they would follow the Mongolian Mongolian companies, but listed in Toronto and Hong Kong, and also in Australia. So we offer these services facilitating these investments.
Right.
But
you also train your clients or the public as well, right, in this regard?
Yes. One of the things we do is we organize these events with the mining companies or other listed companies, and invite our clients, and they introduce their plans and activities for the next years. So that's has been quite kind of popular, useful for our clients.
Right. Based on your client portfolio, you mostly consulted for major companies and investors, but I think among other viewers, there are different sizes of companies or even individual entrepreneurs who are looking at Mongolia and thinking what kind of investment I can do that can bring me my money back in the short and mid-term. What is your advice for them?
Yeah, for any good investor, you need to do a lot of study, read about it, and the country and the economy, and talk to the people, and like investment firms like ours are very good source of information, and we have a good network in the business community. And I think it will be good start talking to us.
Right. If they could not have the accessibility to talk to you directly, they could at least access the reports, market reports, or some of your intelligence services online. Can they?
Yes, that's correct. We do provide monthly kind of industry intelligence reports, and kind of the purpose of these reports are to identify the opportunities and challenges in the sector. So we have done an energy sector report, and we now doing agriculture. We just published agriculture sector report. So
I see.
And along that we also do company-specific reports like equity research reports, so focusing on mostly Mongolian stock exchange listed companies. But that would be also a good start to look at, understand the financials of the companies and that work in Mongolia.
Are they accessible online for free, or do they, can they be?
Yeah, I think we publish some parts of it excerpts, but you can kind of email us and get the full content.
Okay, that's great. That's great to know. MICC created the Mongolian Mining Index back in 2005, and it was informed to be picked up by Bloomberg and Reuters Knowledge. Is it still available?
That's that's a very good point. I think it's been like the 10 years we published this report, so we're going to kind of an update, doing a major update and kind of publish a whole report on this mining. And I think you could see really the trend if you compare this mining index in 2005 and 2016. You could really see what has happened in the last 10 years.
Right,
so
right.
Yeah, please.
And have you already updated, or sorry, or are you still working on that?
Yeah, so you should keep an eye for this. We will be publishing very soon, and it will be quite interesting.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to that. So, though you're an investment banker, I would like to hear your opinion on development of commercial banking in Mongolia.
Yeah.
Do you think Mongolian banking and financial sector have the infrastructural development required for international businesses that would require transactions swift transactions, online payment across borders, etc.? Do you think we do have the sufficient infrastructure already developed for such kind of banking and financial activities?
Yes, I think the commercial banking sector is well developed in Mongolia. You will have no problem in transferring money and doing transactions online or in person. Some services, what we do in the kind of for big funds buying Mongolian shares, we sometimes need, it looks like we need to have a foreign big name custodian bank. So, but I think the government is acceptable willing to bring and welcoming foreign banks to establish branches, and I think it will be even more developed after that.
That's one of the hottest topics at the moment, right?
Right.
Which banks to welcome, whether we should welcome at all or not.
Yeah, I think it also kind of helps the overall development of the financial industry. So once you have a foreign bank, there will be more competition, and also the foreign businesses, the big companies that are coming in, they also always look for their partner banks in the country. So I think it will be helpful for the overall economy and us brokerages when we try to bring big hedge funds and big funds to invest in Mongolia. So.
Okay, Mr. Achit-Erdene, thank you very much for your discussion, and all the best to you, and hope to see you again.
Thank you.